You're listening to the Scottish Football Forums podcast, the home of Scottish football banter.
Good evening and welcome to SFF Podcast. This is episode 34, series 15. It's the mid-table conversation. And what a quadruple we've got on our hands this evening. We've got three sides who arguably are underachieving just now, and one team who are absolutely flying. What a trajectory that the Bairns are on. We'll introduce the Bairns first, Mr. Alan Risk. Alan, how are you?
Aye, absolutely buzzing. Aye, pleasure to be on here, and obviously an absolute pleasure to be a Falkirk fan this season.
Absolutely. By the way, I'm Disco Dave, but you can call me Dave the Dandy, considering I'll be speaking about the Dandies this evening. We've got our Hibs guest. We have Charlie Banks, as per usual, and SFF podcast contributor and regular. Charlie, how are you?
All right, aye. One of those funny ones where was just now, but aye, all good, mate.
And to the tangerine of Dundee United, it's Andrew. How are you, Andrew?
I am doing well, Dave. I'm not bad at all. Into the hat of the next round of the Cup to play the only remaining team from Edinburgh, so looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Right, Charlie, we'll start with yourself. The Dunfermline defeat, I don't think, defines your season. Are you along the lines of that?
Not just now, but I think it could in a few weeks' time if we don't pick up. Obviously, a very disappointing result, but it's about how you bounce back from a disappointment like that. I'm sure all of us have felt that with our clubs over the past couple of years, disappointment. So I think it's really important we bounce back and we bounce back quick this weekend, hopefully against Falkirk.
I suppose Dave Gray falls into the category of he's never in a crisis. However, when he does endure one or two defeats, and just before the tide turns and he's under an element of pressure, he gets a result which kind of alleviates that pressure side of it for him.
Yeah, obviously we had that just before Christmas against Hearts, or just after Christmas, sorry. And then, yeah, from them we've had a few good results, but obviously going out of the Cup early is not ideal, so I think he's up against it a wee bit. And obviously not brought in any players, although I think that might change soon, but it's just not been great January so far.
I mean, the transfer talk, we'll get onto that later on in the podcast. However, when you look at what Gray has achieved now, he's gained a legacy within the club because of 2016. That's a massive understatement to come out and make. He was also under a great deal of pressure just in 2024 there. But I think if he does go on a 4 or 5 game losing streak, don't be people hammering the tables now and saying, yeah, he needs gone.
Yeah, obviously we're 5 unbeaten in the league just now, so it's all right in terms of that. But I guess it's just a case of like, how does he learn from this setback? Which I'm intrigued to see, because obviously there was the massive setback at the start of last season, and then we went on that incredible vein of form. So yeah, I think he's got it in him. You know, we done it last year. It would be nice to do it again this year, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's always, I think, one thing I've noticed with Hibs fans, myself included, is the manager's always 2 games away from the sack, whether that be right or wrong. He's now up against it after last weekend's disappointment in Dunfermline. So I think if we don't bounce back with a win on Saturday, then the pressure does ramp up. And then, you know, we've got Hearts next month. I think we've got Rangers soon as well. So, you know, the pressure does ramp up a wee bit if he doesn't get back to winning ways soon.
Because the Edinburgh derby, when you beat Hearts, that felt like good timing for not just David, but the club.
Yeah, massively. I think that was the issue we had this season. We didn't really have that statement victory, and then we had it against Hearts, and then obviously we beat yourselves, Dave, a few days after that. So I think that was a positive sign. But then obviously everyone had a wee bit of confidence about the window, and that's not been very great. And then throw in losing a Scottish Cup tie to our lower league opposition. No disrespect to Dunfermline, but it just adds a wee bit of fuel to the fire of people not being very happy.
I'm going to throw a totally different picture, a totally different complexity here, Charlie. David Gray got beat by Kelty Hearts. I think it was the second or third game in his tenure permanently, if I'm not mistaken. And from the outside looking in, you're like, this isn't going to work. Nah. It's bring somebody in from within, try and test an apprenticeship type of idea, and it's not going to go and work. But then nobody could have envisaged what Hibs have done since that Kelty Hearts game, for example.
Yeah, obviously the downfall of the Kelty Hearts game was that we ended up getting Celtic in the League Cup, which is not ideal. And then obviously we had that ropey start. But I think, to be honest, I think David Gray's the type of manager that will rally the troops and get everyone back online. And I think it's, as much as it's painful to go out of the cup early, I think it offers us a chance to see what he's really made of. Because that, for me, that's his worst result as a Hibs manager. So we'll see what happens after that.
Realistically, where can Hibs finish this season?
I'd like to say fourth, but at this stage, I think we'll be fifth or sixth.
$1 million question: do you take Hibs finishing 10th over Hearts not winning the league?
Every day. Bleasdale asked me yesterday, would you be happy if would you take Scotland winning the World Cup if it meant Hearts win the league? And unfortunately, I wouldn't. I don't want them to get a corner, never mind win the league.
Because that's the mental thing about it. It's like Scotland could have the best World Cup they've had in decades and generations ever. Yet, if Hearts go win the league, basically half of Edinburgh is not going to shut up about it.
Aye, that's the annoying thing. It's like, normally I want teams that aren't Celtic or Rangers to win the league, but see, when it's them, I'd rather Celtic just win the league. To be fair, if Rangers win the league, happy days, it's no Hearts. If Celtic win the league, happy days, it's no Hearts. But I just don't want them to do it, really. Obviously.
Yeah. David Gray pinpointed on Saturday, Charlie, that Hibs deserve nothing on Saturday at Dunfermline. Is that surprising? Just the work rate, the desire, the aggression on and off the ball, just the attributes that have made Hibs a good team and have gave Hibs the credit that they've deserved prior to Saturday.
Not a surprise when Neil Lennon used to be our manager. It is a surprise, though, when you've got a £1.2 million striker on the pitch and he looks out of place against Dunfermline. Like, that's the big worry, is have we bought a dud? And I'm not exactly convinced by him so far. Watch this, he'll end up scoring a hat-trick on Saturday and let me eat my words. But I wasn't, and Kieran Bowie as well, like, we're quoting 6.5 million, we'll be lucky to get 650 grand for him at this point, because he just was awful on Saturday, and he's had a few games like that recently that he hasn't been pulling the trees up, especially when you're quoting 6.5 million for a player, you're thinking he's got to be the best in class in the league, out with Celtic and Rangers, but he's not really.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned the gap perfectly here, Charlie. So what positions do Hibs need to add in the January transfer window, and the notoriously tough market, where do Hibs need to add?
Like right back, I would say, is the crying obvious one. Like, we never replaced Lewis Miller, and we've got Chris Cadden and Kanayo Megwa, who are decent options. They're not very good. I think Megwa's obviously a young lad, so we'll see what happens with him. But Chris Cadden's probably coming towards the end of his Hibs career, so I would say that. And I would like another striker. I would like another tall striker, because I don't think we've got that. I think if Bowie gets injured, you're looking at Martin Boyle and Cleege or Yuan, who aren't the tallest. They're smaller than me, I think. So, and I'm 5'9", so it's not exactly And obviously, a lot of teams in this league, as we all know, play tall centre halves. So it's not exactly you're not exactly going to get much for that. So I'd like a tall striker. I'm not asking for much, and a right back. I think that's enough for me.
The rumour mill's a bit rife just now with regards to outgoings. Looks like Dylan Levitt's probably in his way out, considering who's the midfielder you've got again that's all loan.
Barlasser?
Yeah, Barlasser. He seems to be getting a lot more game time than Dylan Levitt just now.
Yeah, he's purely because he's a better football player than Dylan Levitt. I like Dylan Levitt. He was really good for us last season. But yeah, it's hard when you bring a player in on loan, they're not coming to sit on the bench, and Levitt's not even getting in the squad, so it's probably for the best that he goes. And obviously the chat is that Mulligan and Bowie are leaving as well, so it might get decent cash for them, but we'll see what happens. I'm not a big fan of the January window, purely for the fact that you end up losing players that you can't replace because of the hard window. So if we can keep Bowie and Mulligan, then we're all right, I would say.
Yeah, Andrew wants to come in.
Yeah, I was going to go back, Charlie. First of all, we were discussing just off air. Although I'm an Arab, I'm actually from Edinburgh originally and from a Hearts part of Edinburgh. So I'm with you entirely. I think if we get like Hearts winning the league and like England winning the World Cup, I might just have to give up football altogether because that would just like tip me over the edge. There's absolutely no part of me that wants Hearts to win the league. But what I was curious about is like obviously the cup result is a bad result, but in terms of the league, you're actually 9 points better off just now than you were at this point last season. I accept, obviously, at the start of last season, it couldn't have started much worse for Gray, and he got the time to bed in. And it was at this point that you were kind of beginning to go on your really good run that lasted through to April. But do you think there's an element of anger, frustration within the Hib support, more potentially exaggerated by how well Hearts are doing rather than how poorly Hibs are doing? Because from the outside looking in, I can understand why Hibs, having finished third, would want to have kicked on and do better, but they're not having a bad season, and I don't think it's in David Gray losing job territory.
No, I wouldn't say it is yet. I stupidly said on Saturday I want rid of him, but that's reactionary to going out of the cup. But no, I
you
would
say that
say,
every Saturday when they lose a game.
I do. Yeah, I think Hearts doing so well has exacerbated people's worries. Mine to an extent. Hearts won't win the league. I think, and I'm just saying that to cover my own back, just in case. Nah, they won't. But I think, see if Hearts were 2 points in front of us, nobody really cares. But because they're 15 points in front of us and they're 6 points clear at the top, then it's like, oh, panic stations have set in. Because originally it was like, oh, they'll not last until November top. Then it's like, oh, they'll be second by Christmas. And now it's like, oh, they'll be second by February. Well, actually, they probably won't. So it's when do you start actually being like, oh, they might actually do it? And that probably does when you draw 1-1 away to Livy or you draw 3-3 at home to United. Dundee United aren't a bad team. Livingston are obviously the worst team in the league this season statistically. So it does be like, well, why are we drawn away to Livingston? Why are we not winning our games at home? Everything that could be picked up on has been picked up on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's right. But I also think it's the nature of football fans. If you flipped it and Hearts were in our position and we were in theirs, they'd be probably doing the same. So it's like, it is by the by of being a football fan, I guess. But you're right, Hearts doing better than us this season is probably adding to the fire of, oh, get the manager out, get everyone out, they're all rubbish. When in actual fact, we're the second highest goal scorer in the league, I think. Is that right? Or we're just behind Rangers, maybe. I know Hearts are top, but
yeah, Hearts and Celtic have got more. Your third highest, yeah.
Third highest, so out with the top two. We've scored a lot of goals. Our issue is we leak goals, and that's always been the case since I've been a Hibs fan in like 20 odd years. We've never been a team to concede not a lot of goals, so that's always a worry. Sometimes usually you need to score 3 to win a game, and that's no great.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I guess the point is that you made the point as well with Cleegee. Gray has been backed more than any previous Hibs manager before. I mean, in terms of, there's obviously Dylan Venti was a big transfer fee, but to break the £1 million marks, quite a big deal, right, in Scottish football.
Yeah, and then,
for a side outside. I know $1 million sometimes maybe doesn't get you much these days, but he has looked not great. And when you're spending that amount of money, that is a concern, right?
But then even if you look at the goalie, we paid a couple $100,000 for him, and Chaiwa we paid 250 grand, I think. So
yeah,
we have spent a lot of money. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the goalie's great, and I think Chaiwa's a decent player, but it's the striker that's the issue. I think if you're spending over £1 million on a player, you're going to hope that they're your top goal scorer and they're starting every week. Whereas he's not starting every week and he's nowhere near our top goal scorer. I don't think he's far off it, but it's still like, it's a worry for me that, you've seen him in previous Hibs teams, like we bought Harry McCurdy and all these duds for no money. And then we've bought somebody for breaking our transfer record and he seems like a dud. So you can't win.
Absolutely. Kieran Bowie, there's obviously been a lot of talk about Kieran Bowie. Is staying at Hibs the best option to try and get himself in the play to the World Cup? Now, for Scotland, there's options that Steve Clarke is trying to test the renown with, but Kieran Bowie, if you're looking for a striker who is match fit, in contrast to a certain striker in Edinburgh as of this present moment in time, Kieran Bowie is a good option for you.
He is, but he's hot and cold. Like you've seen, I don't know if any of you watched the game on Saturday, but his chance when he was running through and he just doesn't know what to do, and then he'll go through games where he's really good, like he was really good in Europe and all that kind of stuff, and then you go into a run-of-the-mill game away to Aberdeen and he's never seen a football before. So it's a worry. But I think for his sake, he needs to be just staying at a team where he's playing football. He's going to get that at Hibs. And I think if Shanklin's out for 6 to 8 weeks, if that then becomes exacerbating, he's out longer, then he probably has a better chance of going to the World Cup. So I would say for his sake, he just should stay where he is.
Mm-hmm. And is it a peculiar time, finally, is it a peculiar time to be following Hibs just now, considering Hearts' current position?
It is. It's never nice to see your greatest rivals doing so well. Like, I've grown up watching Hearts do better than Hibs for the most part, winning more trophies and stuff, but I've got a wee bit of hope after 1986 at Dens Park that there'll be another Albert Kidd moment and they throw away, but it's getting closer and closer to that being.
I'd prefer it doesn't go that tight.
I'm just about to say that. I'd rather they threw it away now. I'd rather they got hammered on Saturday or Sunday off Celtic and then they start falling down the table. But there's something about. But we showed just after Christmas that teams can get at them, and we blew them apart. And obviously we won 3-2. So that says it, Brian.
Yeah. Finally, who's your player of the season so far?
That's slim pickings, I would say. Probably Jamie McGrath, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We knew he was good when he came in, but I never knew
Mulligan as well.
Mulligan as well, aye. I knew McGrath was good, but I never knew he was that good. Hadn't watched him that closely apart from when he played us, but he is absolutely outstanding. Very, very good.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Charlie. We will go into Falkirk in 6th position. Wow, could it have been the season you dreamt of here, Alan?
Aye, I mean, it's been absolutely unbelievable. I think every single Falkirk fan would have taken survival, and that was the goal. And for some of them, it still is. But I think we realistically have to look at where we are in the table, and we're right in the fight for top 6 and in a really good position. So that's it's a brilliant place to be. And I think when you talk about where we are, we're obviously a few points behind Hibs. It's a massive game this weekend. But being in the position we're in and then getting through the next round of the Cup, knocking out the league leaders, that's stuff of dreams.
Absolutely. I mean, this time, last week, 2 years ago, you drew at Edinburgh City. That was an Edinburgh City side that had that points deduction, if you remember correctly, Alan. that ultimately was inevitable, them going down to League Two. And you went to the Premiership, which explains the tangible trajectory that Falkirk have been on.
Well, I think I've heard that's go around a few times. And that Edinburgh City game was an interesting game because Edinburgh City had lost a lot of their players and had to play their pretty much their youth team. That was during our Invincible campaign, and obviously we hadn't lost a game. So on paper, we were up against the under 19s, under 20s Edinburgh City side, and we obviously came back to get a draw, which ultimately helped get us an Invincible campaign. So that game was part of a quality season. It's the years before that where we were terrible. Where I look at the journey, and I look at where we've come from, and I also just look at the club. We're a different football club in terms of properly fan owned. We've got the right ethics, from the CEO down to the manager, down to the players and the fans, engaging with the ultras community. The message is like unified, and everyone's in it together, and it's a brilliant time to be a Falkirk fan.
I mean, for example, I was reading newspapers and various media outlets, and before John McGlynn came in, there was part-time teams like Montrose and Peterhead and Kelty Hearts, for example, that managers would be coming out in the press after they played Falkirk and disappointed and drew 2-2.
Yeah, and that was the case. I think we had the season where we were up against Wraith. That was the COVID year, and then obviously getting beat off McGlynn's first season, getting beat off Airdrie 6-2 in the first leg of the playoff semi-final. And again, these were humiliations again, but something that we become used to. And as you say, teams were up for it. They would come to the Falkirk Stadium looking to get a result, but McGlynn brought in his players, and that first season we didn't get promoted, but he got that team playing together, playing a style, and then obviously like that second year in League One under McGlynn was just he transformed the club, and that we've never really stopped going up since then.
Yeah, John McGlynn for me is a massive part of why Falkirk are doing so well. Not just his man management and his coaching skills, but for example, Brad Spencer was linked with Hearts in the summer. Ross McKeever was linked with a move away. Various other players were linked with a move away in the summer. And a big part of why they've stayed at Falkirk would have been John McGlynn. It's not the financial pressures that the likes of Hearts and that can attract. It's primarily John McGlynn and his style of football, but also, most importantly, his man management.
The management team. It's that's a big part of the reason they stay in there, but it's not static. We brought Stephen McGinn back into a coaching role. They've obviously Arfield had a big part off the pitch towards the end of his sort of stay with us. You've got that many different fabrics of the club that have kept them there. I think this season you talk about the step up from the Championship to the Premiership. Our sports psychology, our analysts, every single department from the medical through to the actual play at the first team, we're upgrading the club as we go along. And players who've been on that journey, they'll stick around, one, as you say, because of the management and because they get on really well there. But what they're seeing is a club that's developing at the same rate they are, and the facilities are getting better, etc. And obviously this season, you look at the growth. I think you get, I can't remember how much it was. It was 200 grand for winning League One, maybe 600, 700 for winning the Championship. But for staying in the Premiership alone, you're getting a couple of million, which is a massive, massive jump. And the fact that we're doing that on sort of, we're making a profit and on break even, means that we can reinvest all that in creating an even better Falkirk.
Absolutely. The recruitment's been very astute as well. Like the players that have been brought in, they've been players from down south, and they've been players that maybe haven't really been tested at a level such as the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah, the stories have been shared numerous times about your players like Liam Henderson was, I think, his first signing, and I seen this. the stats that came out, I think today or yesterday, he's the hardest defender to get by. Won the highest percentage of duels in the Premiership, ahead of like Luke Graham for Dundee, well ahead of your Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales, etc. So he's a guy who has come from League One through the whole journey with us. But I think McGlynn's done that, as you say. He identifies a player who's got talent, and they're not. I wouldn't say they're hidden talent, because you look at. I'm pretty sure Calvin Miller was Celtic Academy Player of the Year. Aidan Nesbitt was also. He played in the Toulon tournament. I think he was either Academy Player of the Year, or he was definitely.
John McGlynn will be a Y Scout extraordinaire.
Oh, but I don't even think it's Y Scout. He goes to so much football. Every single football game there's on, McGlynn's at. So yeah.
Absolutely. Andrew, would you want to come in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been seriously impressed with Falkirk. You know, I had hospitality at Tannadice for the game where you absolutely blew us apart. It was our worst performance this season, but I was really impressed with Falkirk, and I'm watching the cup tie on Saturday. You were watching the game and Falkirk were the better side, which was really, impressive to see. And guys like Calvin Miller and Brad Spencer have just totally stepped up and just looked really dangerous players, because a few players you've signed, as you say, the core of the team has been there for some time, and McGlynn's obviously pulled them together. I'm trying to work out, I think Scotland still have, and correct me if I'm wrong, a 5th European place next year, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
It drops off potentially the season after.
Aye, I think you're spot on.
So I know you were talking about securing your safety, and I get it, but you're 20 ahead of Livy and you're 16 ahead of Kelly. So I mean, being realistic, I think you could pretty much not pick up another point and they'll probably not get to you. So you are safe. And so from that point of view, do you think, aspirations of potentially looking up, and if the cup winners are in the top 5, 5th place would get into Europe, right? So, is there kind of thoughts that, you could potentially get into Europe for what I think would only be the 2nd time in the club's history?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of us are lucky enough to have like that memory of videos when Ryan Flynn scored, and it was such a shame we went across there and obviously threw it away. But when you're seeing teams like your St Mirren's, clubs of a similar size, with a similar sort of fan-funded background, you're looking at those clubs, even like Dundee United sort of forays into Europe, you're getting jealous. Of course you are. But I don't think anyone realistically thought that was a possibility for us this season. And so but you're right, now you're at the stage of the season where you've got that 5-point gap. You're playing Hibs this weekend in a game which could bring us 2 points within 5th place. And loads of other games in the last sort of 2 months, it's only been a goal here and there. The 1-0 loss to Dundee, the 1-0 loss to Celtic. You're not I think the thing that was been most impressive is, apart from the Hibs game, for example, and then in the first Hearts game, there's very few games this season that we've not competed in. And I think what McGlynn's done this window, if you're looking at where Falkirk are looking in terms of which direction in the table, we've got our business done surprisingly early. And the rest of the window is just going to be hoping that none of the loan players that are flourishing go back. I mean, we brought in Parkinson, paid a fee. Like, who does that at Falkirk? Bought Parkinson off in Newcastle. He scored against Hearts, scored the last penalty to send us through. So he's got that goal-scoring monkey off his back already. Looks a prospect. And we've got Aidan Marshall on loan as well. So we're looking. We've got the business done early, which surprised McGlynn, and them being in the door early. If we are going to make a push for anywhere above us, we need to win this weekend first of all.
Yeah.
And then see what happens.
And I guess when you're talking about the sustainability of the club as well, was it 5,700 season tickets you've sold or something like that?
Yeah, so the stadium holds about 7,900. I think there's. I wouldn't be surprised if it was over the 6,000 mark, because the main stand and the south stand both sold out for season tickets. The north stand is that's where your away section is in. So I think away fans get maybe 900 tickets, and then the rest of it, a lot of it's season tickets, and then we have a set amount of tickets purchases, or sort of single match ticket purchases for Falkirk fans, because I think it's about that. To be sustainable, you have to grow. and there's going to be so many people who couldn't afford or maybe didn't want to buy a season ticket and they want to come up on the day. And so far, I can't remember a game that hasn't been sold out this season. So it's working.
Which is, but it also gives you that opportunity to go to the next step. And actually, frankly, I think those numbers, you are the 7th biggest side and not actually far behind Dundee United in Scotland. Like, you're bigger than that's more season tickets than Kilmarnock, Motherwell, St Mirren, Shift, and that gives a great opportunity. And of course, you've got the potential, I guess, ultimately to maybe build that 4th stand, and that would maybe part of that would be for away support or whatever, but give Falkirk the opportunity to really cement themselves as a Premiership side, and one that, if you're the 7th biggest side, a good chance of having good seasons where you're in the top 6.
You're totally right. There's the really sort of the thing that I kind of understood and I knew was that the 4th stand has to be financially feasible, because you're not going to get someone. You'll be very lucky to get someone come at you and throw 2 million for you to build a stand. But what I was looking for, and my wish was, my dream was for the club, was to get 2 or 3 seasons consistently in the top flight, because then at the very least an investor might come in and go, actually, there's an opportunity here, and join us in a venture. So I think one of the battles we've got is, well, obviously, as you say, it looks like we'll be in the league next season. That's a massive plus. The only thing is we've got a 1-year extension to having to relay the pitch. Yeah. And then when we do relay the pitch, that's going to be another $1 million or so to do that. So you're looking at that's probably a dent in money we would have earmarked for a new stand. So that's going to have to sort of be there. However, we're on Premier Sports all the time. We're in the public eye. Apparently, there's conversations quite on the regular of people sort of talking about ways that they can invest in the clubs. The interesting thing, a lot of them have been looking to be the sole or primary investor, whereas we're not looking for that because we're fan owned.
Yeah,
you can have a minority stake where you can put a lot of money in, but you're not going to get all the say because there's other parties there. But in terms of just the stand, just for a flavour of that, the local council are closing 2 or 3 leisure centres, and there's a conversation going just now that they want to pick a site, and because the council own the land adjacent to the Falkirk Stadium, they wouldn't have to pay for the land. So the club are in conversations about cool the 4th stand into a leisure complex in addition to a stand, and that gives it that sort of feasibility aspect, because we don't need a totally. We just need 2,000 seats and something else that's going to keep the building running on a day-to-day basis.
You could even, because you're using what is it, like a bit of a fan zone and stuff in the space and that just now for someone to get. So I mean, you could, and as you say, it just gives you that opportunity to have the bigger away supports. Look, maybe it's been advantageous having small away supports, but actually, the money that will come in, because you would get, given where you geographically are as well, all the away teams would say, all the away teams would sell it. So no, it's an exciting time. Looking in, it's a club on the up, and I think St Mirren made about £1 million from their League Cup run, in terms of gate receipts and prize money. And you've taken out one of the Edinburgh sides, and Hibs going out as well. Falkirk have got to fancy they're outside the old firm. You've got to fancy their chances as much as anyone of kind of going pretty deep in the Scottish Cup. I know you've got the local derby next, which is a bit of a banana skin, but and Stennismuir well, but yeah, you've got to look to get through that, and then a good draw, and it could be on to Hampden.
Well, the thing is, I think that the dream next couple of rounds for us are on, because we lost Stennismuir as a club. We obviously lost in the Challenge Cup to them at their ground last season 1-0. We had a penalty to win it, and the striker, I think it's the rule that's just been removed, where he hit the ball twice in the way to take the penalty. Ryan Shanley, who we got for Edinburgh City, and Blair Alston, a former player, scored one of the winning penalties. So it's a brilliant kind of rivalry that we've got. It's a friendly rivalry. A lot of Falkirk fans live in Stennismuir. It's part of Falkirk. But I think we're a different Falkirk for the one that we played last season. And the opportunity there is there to hopefully get through. It'll not be an easy tie, but if we get through the Stennismuir tie, you've then got a potential. Dundee should see off. Dunfermline should see off Kelty.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a tie that would be for a place in the semi-final.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and the other argument, of course, is given there's no replays, if you got through and United have a favourable draw, so I'm thinking it as well, would you rather get Rangers or Celtic at home in the quarter-finals on the basis you've got a better chance of beating them there than you do at Hampden? Although, I mean, St Mirren showed you can also beat them at Hampden, but...
Totally. I think, to be honest with you, I think we'll be on cloud 9. So I wouldn't put it past us turning over any team at Hampden on our day, because I think Hampden's a big pitch, and one of the key things that people might have seen, especially in the last few games where our sort of form, we've been consistently playing quite well, just not getting the goals over the latter part of the season. But what the biggest change since sort of October has been just tightening up at the back. We make it very difficult for teams to score against us. But going forward, we've Kyle Wilson, Ethan Williams, Calvin Miller, Ethan Ross. These guys are, and Aidan Marsh now as well. These guys are all rapid, and on a big Hampden pitch, they're going to get so much space, especially if you're playing an aggressive Rangers or an aggressive Celtic. So, I think we went to Ibrox, put on a good show there. Yeah, we've got Celtic at the end of the month. I guess that's almost
you boycotting with the £36.
Absolutely. For a restricted view, I think it's 33 still. And you're just, recently, but 36 quid is mad. Aye.
No, it's great. United were 39 at Parkhead and 36 restricted views. What it was at the start of the month.
Yeah. I think it's there's little opportunities to kind of sort of share your opinion. And make a stand, but I think we don't get many tickets. We've got a club email to say they put a ballot out for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go to ballot and they just put the tickets up. Or as you say, or decline some. But no, it's optimistic. There's loads of stuff happening. We're bringing players in. We hope we keep the loan signings there, and I think the key thing is. You know as well with Dundee United in terms of where do you want to be, and when the times are good and when the times are bad. And at the moment, the times in Falkirk are brilliant. And I think we have to remember anything that happens between now and the end of the season. Think back to 4 or 5 years ago when times weren't good, and just enjoy every single game from now to the end of the season.
Totally.
As far as I'm concerned, Alan, I think you can finish in the top 6 this season. Aberdeen will be interested, obviously, the new management appointment, whenever it happens. I think Dundee United are deteriorating them. Jim Goodwin will get Andy's thoughts imminently, but I don't think Dundee United are the same streamline that they were on previously. We'll obviously get Andy's thoughts on that in due course, but as far as I'm concerned, Alan, I think you can finish in the top 6 this season.
Yeah, Dave, I lost you slightly there, but yeah.
On you go, Alan, sorry.
Yeah, I think top 6 is I think it is a strong possibility. But like I say, every game now is, I think for top 6, there's so many. I look at the signings that every other club. You look at the massive clubs below us, but be it Dundee United, be it Aberdeen, the signings that are being made. It's interesting. I'm seeing obviously even Kilmarnock. I think he got Finlay Curtis has gone there on loan. There's strong signings getting made by everyone below us. So if we have to keep up momentum, but it's going to be a really, really fun, interesting period. And every single game is going to be massive.
When you look at the season so far, it's obviously been tangible, but the mentality within the group is tangible, Alan.
Yeah, in terms of you just mean in terms of the that step up in the belief and like winning these games. Yeah, I think we didn't have that for the first few games. I mean, I think many of us there was almost a feeling that we were buzzing to be in the game, and it was a really good game against Dundee United at Falkirk in the opening day. It was a beautiful sunny day. We'd obviously unveiled the Championship winners banner. The fan zone had its debut, so everyone had a few beers and had a really good time. And it was a good game of football. It was 2 each. It was both teams could have won it. Falkirk came back into it, came from behind twice. But so that coming from behind against a good Dundee United side kind of gave you belief, but it took us a little while to win. And I think there was a period until we played that Aberdeen game where we were a little bit like, oh, is this a step of quality in the squad? But what we've seen is the team's got better every single game. And when I say like the team gets better, like last season, Leon McCann, our left back, couldn't get in the squad ahead of Sean Mackey because Sean Mackey was more physical, and generally chipped in with a once and just was on good form all season. McCann didn't start at left back. He came in after a few games, and he's just never looked back. He's been top drawer, and that's a guy who's a bit shorter, but not as physical. Generally, might not have the attributes you'd associate with a Premiership left back, but under McGlynn, I'd say a large part down to McCann himself, he's made himself indispensable, and he had a good chance against Celtic, another one against Hearts. So I think a player you've not just got one player. There's loads and loads of players in that squad who've developed a winning mentality through League One, through the Championship, into the Premiership, and it's only now like they're believing that they're actually Premiership quality. So it's mentality. It's McGlynn, it's having Arfield, it's topping it up with these quality players and letting them feed into you, Stephen McGinn, etc. And it's working.
It's interesting, Alan, you're talking about that winning mentality, because Dundee won the Championship top 6. Aye. United won the Championship top 4. You're won the Championship and currently looking like, top 6 and, potential to push on.
Totally, but I think what exactly as you say, the interesting thing will be, and Dundee, you guys are an interesting case because you've changed your squad entirely. I think
totally new team, pretty much, more or less.
That opening game, that 2-2 draw, one of the best things
I barely knew
in our favour. Exactly. That thing in our favour was Dundee United won't know how to play with each other, so we'll just that's why it was a good draw. But we're also like, when they do learn how to play with each other, this will be a good side. So we need, maybe we'll take the point where we can get it. So I think the biggest thing for us is, how do you grow? How do you make sure you've got it? And I think what we're seeing is, with this January window, buying Parkinson, playing Barney Stewart now on the regular because he's young, come back from Dunfermline from a loan spell where I think he scored 8 and 12. He's not scoring right away, and there'll be a little bit of frustration, but McGlynn's clearly said, might not score them now, as long as I get him to start scoring them by August.
Yeah.
So he's already now thinking, right, okay, this season is the stuff of dreams, but let's start getting guys in now for next year, because that's how early you have to start planning.
Totally.
Right, we're going to go into the tangerine of Dundee United. Is there a be careful what you wish for analogy with Jim Goodwin, Andrew, or is the pressure and criticism at the moment justified?
I think so. In terms of it depends what you mean. Be careful what you wish for. I think the criticism of Goodwin is justified. Do
you remember how Derek McInnes was at Aberdeen and Chris Boyd came out with that "Be careful what you wish for"? I'm thinking something similar with Jim Goodwin.
Yeah, so I think, to take the question, Dave, about is the criticism justified? Yes, because this season has been disappointing. But in terms of what you wish for, that would be, I guess, be careful what you wish for if you're wanting him removed. And there was an element of the supporter base turned against him, I think, possibly following the derby, and then the defeat at Parkhead, which might sound silly because United have an even worse record at Parkhead than Falkirk. I can remember Falkirk winning at Parkhead in the League Cup a few years ago. We've not done it since the early 90s, but the performance was absolutely hopeless. We didn't try to win the game. Goodwin's often criticised for being quite defensive. We did not try to win the game and still got cuffed 4-0, and it was a really disappointing performance. And I think the Scottish Cup tie, if we'd gone out, and Goodwin's obviously got a history of doing that in the Scottish Cup on Saturday, I think a few people would have had the nice out. But the way I look at it is, we've had 20 managers since Jim McGlynn. Goodwin, if he gets to April, will be the longest serving of those. And I am of the view that the last 2 seasons have been successful insofar as that we the championship. We didn't want to be in the championship, but when we were there, we won it relatively comfortably. We had a good points return. And then last season, to finish 4th with a group of players that had come from the championship, I think that was Goodwin that managed to kind of gel together a good team. You look at some of the guys he had, like Kevin Holt, Declan Gallagher, Ross Docherty, they've gone back to the championship and they're struggling. So he did well to make United difficult to beat and to be able to kind of roll the dice late on and pull out those 1-0 wins. So in my view, I'm not at the position where I would be Goodwin out or anything like that. But at the same time, we've only won, I think, 5 we've drawn lots, as have a lot of sides, but we've not won enough games. And back to Alan's point at the start of the season, we pulled together this group of players and we kind of hoped it would have gelled by now and improved. It's kind of fizzled out to an extent, or not so much fizzled out, but some of the players we perhaps thought were good signings.
3 goals. Up in Dundee.
Dave, you're back.
Yeah. It's a bit windy outside tonight where I am, so
I still thought we were
changing Wi-Fi while I was back. I hope I didn't get anything interrupted or anything along those lines, because what you were saying was very, very good, Andy. Did you want to elaborate at all?
No, just in terms of what I was, I think I covered the point where you dropped it. I think in terms of Goodwin, the criticism is justified, but I'm not in the position where I'm calling for Goodwin to lose his job. I think he's done a steady job over the last 2 years, and whilst this season's been disappointing and the squad's not gelled, or perhaps it's the case actually some of the signings aren't as good as we thought, I'm not at the stage that I want Goodwin out. And to be honest, some of the guys we brought in, I query whether they're Jim Goodwin signings, right? Because they've come from the far corners of the world, so he can't have been out scouting them. So I think Goodwin is right to be criticised, and he is still instinctively a very negative manager at the start of games. But I'm not at the stage where I want Goodwin to lose his job.
The bit I'm getting at, and I don't think I think it's a valid point. You obviously look at 2016 with Mixu Patalainen. You look at 23 William Fox, and if you're a Dundee United fan, we don't want that for a third time.
Totally. There's a scar tissue of that still. I mean, that's the thing is, United have had these good. In 2016, we came off 8 consecutive seasons of top 6, and we didn't even do what kind of Kilmarnock or Motherwell do and take, our time to kind of, avoid relegation. We just went straight down the plug hole type thing. And that is, I think I've still got the scar tissue of that. So, no, I'm not at the stage I want Goodwin out. We've only lost. Although we've only won 5 games, we've only lost 7 games out of 22, so we've lost less than a third of our league games. And actually, our results against the bigger teams in the league have been quite good. We've beaten Celtic, which we'd not done for 10 years. We drew with Rangers twice, and in both those games, we were beating Rangers with 3 minutes to go and last kick of the ball at Tannadice. We've been ahead against Hearts. We've been ahead twice against Hibs in both our games. We beat Aberdeen and we're ahead at Pittodrie. So the performances against the bigger teams have been okay. It's just the performances against your Kilmarnock, we've lost 2 if you include the cup and drawn 1. We were behind against Livingston. We've been behind twice against St Mirren. Falkirk cuffed us. So the smaller sides in the league, Goodwin has found it really difficult to get on the front foot and dominate the game. He's much better, I think, still playing the bigger side, counter-attacking kind of formation setup.
Yeah. In hindsight, Andy, do you think the foreign recruitment that Jim Goodwin, you mentioned 4 corners of the world and everything, do you think that was an idea that backfired? He admitted in the public he was open to signing players from all over the world, including Scotland, but then privately he was probably thinking the Scottish market is not good enough for what he wants or the budget he desires, despite the fact that there's plenty of players in the low records of Scottish football and the low records in the Premiership that could probably do a job for Dundee United.
Yeah, but I think basically the rumour was that the owner cut the budget, and so Goodwin thought that they would get better value by going into, he obviously dines out to an extent on Majowski and Ramadani at Aberdeen, I don't know how responsible he was, but he obviously, went back out there last season. Certainly we brought in Babunski and Trapanovsky, but we've gone much further afield and really, gone down the model of either combing for data or whatever, and gone quite multicultural in our approach. Whether, if you say whether it was a good or a bad idea, well, if you look at the players we let go, Declan Gallagher, Kevin Holt, I guess, left, Ross Docherty, these guys are now back in the Scottish Championship. Yeah. So we did need to upgrade the squad. And it's just, I guess, maybe some of them. If you look, I think my frustration is the goalkeeping position where we signed Yevgeny Kucherenko, who, after scoring an own goal against Charlie's lot at Hibs and an own goal against Alan's lot with Falkirk, was essentially, that was his last game, the game against Falkirk, punching the ball into the net twice. He scored 3 own goals, and that was not a good signing. And we'd seen what had happened, because in 2023, I don't think we had the worst squad in the league, but we had the worst goalkeeper probably in the last 20 years in Mark Birighitti, and that really sent us down. And Goodwin, after the Falkirk game, took Kucherenko out. We've since sold him, and he's decided that goalie was not what we should have gone for. And I think there's frustration when you look at Falkirk brought in Scott Bain. there's lots of Scottish goalkeepers potentially we could have gone for. I know Gordon's just come in at Hearts. Whether he would have wanted to play to try and make a pitch for the World Cup squad, I think he's very much going to be stuck at Hearts as number 2 now. But even guys like Xander Clark or Ross Doohan, who Celtic brought in, would have been signings I would have been quite happy to make.
Is Dave Richards the answer?
No, I don't think so. Dave Richards is clearly not. Dave Richards is early 30s, and I think he's played less than 100 senior games in his career because barring an 18-month spell at Crewe, he's basically permanently been a number 2 for the last 12 years of his career. He actually is a steady enough number 2 in that he came in at the end of last season, the game against Aberdeen where we qualified to Europe and did fine, but this season he gifted Aberdeen the equaliser at Pittodrie. He gifted a goal at Parkhead, which was less relevant because we were getting cuffed there anyway. He's relatively unconvincing to me, and this is maybe quite a bad mentality. He's quite wee for a goalkeeper, and I quite like my goalkeepers to be big and imposing, and so that Richards is clearly not the answer. And Goodwin has said that United are in the goalkeeping market, but we've not been able to bring someone in yet, which is a bit frustrating. I think part of it, Celtic maybe have Doohan for the European quota because he's, number 3 not playing. I'm not sure if that's the rationale. They have to have a number of homegrown players because he, to me, would be an obvious signing. But it's frustrating because we do need a goalkeeper in.
Yeah, because when you look at Dave Richards, you alluded to a good bench player. Rudy Adams spending the war weeks with Kelty Hearts and his Fife, but he's probably not ready to make that step into being a number 1 for Dundee United.
The only way you would know is by playing him. But yeah, I mean, he bizarrely probably played almost as many senior games because he did play a lot for Kelty. But yeah, it's difficult because I've not seen Nuri Adams, so I would be speculating about whether he would be going into a relatively challenging situation, I guess, if he went in now. But I suspect, given that Richards is starting, they don't think he's quite ready, and so they're obviously in the market to bring someone in. I would expect a goalkeeper to arrive in the next 11 days, but January is often difficult to do your shopping, so we'll see.
Yeah, you touched on Alan about the Scottish Cup for Falkirk. At the same time, getting to Hampden for Dundee United, I feel is overdue. It probably, there's a feeling of, what's the right word? There's a feeling of envy for Jim Goodwin having seen his former club win the League Cup last month. And for Dundee United, when you look back at, I know this is a massive one to take here, but am I correct in saying, correct me if I'm wrong here, 2014 the last time Dundee United were at Hampden?
No, they were in the 2014 Scottish Cup final. They've been to the 2015 League Cup final, the 2016 Scottish Cup final since we're coming to the Panenka. They actually were at the 2021 one in COVID against Hibs, but as I like to tell all St Johnstone fans, that season doesn't count, of course. So the cups in those that season are irrelevant for any St Johnstone fans listening in. But no, as a result, I like taking the piss out of the fact that Dundee haven't been to a National Cup semi-final for 20 years, and thanks to their draw at Parkhead, that looks like it's extending. The last time, amazingly, they were at the semi-final of Ivor Cup was when Gretna cuffed them 3-0 in 2006. United are overdue a cup run. Jim Goodwin is overdue a cup run because the Darvel one made its own headlines, Dave. Sorry to bring that up for the scar tissue that might get for you, but when we were in the Championship, he lost to Queen of the South in the Scottish Cup, at the round before even the Premiership teams come in, and we lost a Dundee derby last season in the last 32 of the Scottish Cup. So a cup run is something that I think could turn supporter mood a bit with Goodwin. We've got very fortunate getting Spartans at home in the next round. It's as good a draw as you could get in the last 16, and obviously gives us a great chance to get to the quarter-finals where Hearts and Hibs are out. One of Aberdeen or Motherwell will be going out, and Celtic may well take care of Dundee. And to be honest, if they don't, and that suits me because that takes Celtic out. So, United actually for bookies are third favourites for the cup. I think largely because I think they've priced us in to beating Spartans, but it gives us an opportunity to do something and get to Hampden would be great.
I mean, I'm going to put the shoe on our foot here. I'd argue if the game was at Ainsworth Park, United fans would have been fearing the worst. Well,
I mean, they did lose the League Cup tie. Obviously, when Goodwin first had the players together, 2 and a bit years ago. But I mean, in the last 16 of the Cup, if you're getting a side in League Two, I know they're top at League Two. I don't think it goes as far as fearing the worst. You're always a little bit nervous when you play a side, but given some of the other opponents you could get, you want to get a lower league side, and if you're getting a side in League Two, then you're doing pretty well. So I'm delighted with a cup draw. United obviously have to approach it in the usual way. They won't be resting players or anything like that. But yeah, I'd be hopeful of getting through that tie.
When you look at Dundee United, top six was great last season, but with Hibs doing well, with Falkirk doing relatively well, I'm not so sure Dundee United's making the top six in this precise moment in time.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's one place up for grabs, which is the place I was just bigging up for Alan and Falkirk getting, because I think obviously the top three speaks, is
The
clear.
point I'm making, I can't see Falkirk losing too many games between them now in the split.
Yeah, well, it's only 5 points over 11 games, so from United's point of view, it's a gap that is bridgeable if we have a good set of fixtures. That this time we only won one of our last 11, which was the main problem. But to still be in touching distance of that, but if we win at Falkirk, the gap's down to 2 between us. So then we have to get 2 more points in them over the course of the other 10 games. So it's still early enough that if we have a good February, next 2 games, February, March, then absolutely we can finish top 6. But at the moment, it's definitely Falkirk are in the driving seat for that, and United also have Aberdeen there potentially with a new manager to push on as well. So it's more likely United will be bottom 6. We've got the comfort, I guess, of knowing that relegation's not really going to be. I mean, Charlie said in the group chat the other day, United are in bother. I was like, well, I mean, define bother for me, because we're, fortunately we're not. I'll stick my neck on the ball. We're not going down this season, but there's a risk our season could peter out to a kind of bottom 6, not very exciting end to the season. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I hope the cup can spark something and we can get the league form going as well. But yeah, top 6 is absolutely still, and I hope. But at the moment, I would concede that Falkirk are favourite to secure that over us.
Yeah, Alan, just coming back on to you, who's your player of the season so far?
This is going to sound really corny, but there's so many.
Yeah, it's been about the whole team, isn't it?
It's everyone stepped up. I mean, you could look at, if you're talking about clean sheets, you're probably talking about Scott Bain in the belief that he's instilled in that back line. Mr. Consistent is Liam Henderson. Brad Spencer's been brilliant. Calvin Miller is so. I think naming a single player for any Falkirk fan will be extremely, extremely tough. But what I would say in terms of in terms of the biggest difference maker, I would probably say Scott Bain.
Andy, who would be your player of the season at Dundee United just now? Will Ferry, maybe?
No, I don't think he would be on my shortlist. So yeah, I mean, there's links of him going to Vancouver Whitecaps, and if he wants to go, that's fine by me. If we can get some money for him, I think he's been relatively disappointing. Maybe got slightly onto a game the last kind of couple of weeks. We've the problem is we've not had a standout player. We signed 15. Yeah, well, we signed 15 players in the summer, and I would say there's maybe kind of 4, 5 maybe that I would say have been good signings. Lucas Stevenson coming back. Yeah, Lucas Stevenson coming back he's a good player. I think Liverpool have quite a high opinion of him, and he's versatile. I like him. He's not been so good the last kind of 2-3 weeks, but he's a good player. Amar Fata on loan and Kerishtes on loan. The 3 loan players have been good. And then the 2 signings that we've made, Panucci Kamara, has been good. I was bigging him up before the derby, and then he was absolutely hopeless. But I think he'd been out for a month, and he needed to get up to speed. He'd had the birth of his first kid, which is why he missed the Falkirk game when they cuffed us. I think his baby was actually born during that game, so it's probably fair enough we gave him the afternoon off that day. But Pan Kamara has been good, and the fact he scored a nice goal via air. Hopefully he can come back onto game. And Sapsford's definitely what I describe as a rough diamond. You can see the quality he has. It's exciting. We've got him on a 3-year deal. He's had some really good finishes, but he's also had some bad misses, which you'd expect. Otherwise, he wouldn't be at Dundee United, right? But I think you can see he's got pace. He's a nuisance. He's a pest up front. He's a good finisher. And he is the type of guy which I think has the kind of attributes to be able to play at a higher level. And if he can get more consistent and improve at United, he's potentially the guy that we could be selling on at some point next season, potentially for a bit of money.
Yeah, right. I'll need to go and do a bit of speaking. I'm going to lose my voice by tomorrow morning because it's on to Aberdeen. So my first question was, why did it go wrong for Jimmy Tilleen? I think there was a stubbornness about Jimmy Tilleen, to be honest with you. I think it was just the way in which he was, the way in which he tried to play conducive football. There was to his own demands rather than the team's demands. And I feel that Tilleen got found out because of it. Now, the Scottish Cup win against Celtic in May, it's an understatement for me to come out and make it 100% papered over the cracks. And for Aberdeen, they'd have been gone long before the first game in January against Alwyn's Falkirk, had it not been for that Scottish Cup win, he probably would have got in probably. When you hindsight's a wonderful thing, but when you look at Europe and perhaps struggling in Europe, not saying completely struggling in Europe, but maybe struggling in Europe, he'd have got in September, October. He'd maybe got in 5-6 games at the start of the season, and then seen how you are after that. But I think for Jimmy Tilly, the stubbornness is ultimately got the better of him. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a top manager. I think he's proved that in Sweden. But I think there's a way to be stubborn and a way to find and adapt your way to success in Scotland. It's a totally different entity here in contrast to Scandinavia, and that's where it hasn't gone great at all. The fact that Aberdeen didn't go 6 or 7 without scoring at the start of the season, and then 5 or 6 without scoring prior to Sunday's win over Raith Rovers, was tangible in the sense that, yeah, a change was required. But when you look at the recruitment as well, the recruitment on paper looked good. On paper, I'll emphasise. However, when you look at recruitment and how Aberdeen were, there's a narrative of lost the dressing room and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be honest with you, under Dave Cormack's leadership, there's been the accusation of lost the dressing room during every manager that Dave Cormack has sacked. So I'm not throwing this lost dressing room at Jimmy Tilleen, because there was an accusation that he lost the dressing room last January, yet they went on and won the Scottish Cup and had a tangible finish in Europe. I know finishing 5th wasn't exactly to Aberdeen's liking at the end. Obviously, Dundee United had a lot of ideas at the last day of the season. They thought they were going to be in the Europa League, but they're in the Conference League. But yeah, that's the. I'll say it from my point to you, Andy. I think that just went and showed how good Dundee United were last season, when Aberdeen had a really good season last season, yet Dundee United on the last day of the season looked a team much better than Aberdeen in that game.
Yeah, well, first half, obviously, Aberdeen were ahead 1-0 half time, but United put in a good performance the second half to turn it around. And I mean, we were helped by the fact that, as you say, the cup win papered over the cracks for Aberdeen, because Aberdeen had been crap since about Halloween last year, right? I mean, I was kind of surprised that you went back in and brought Kevin Nisbet. I know Erin on the podcast has spoken for how she liked Nisbet. I don't see it. I don't know if Alan discussion.
He's not on the
I know his game's good at Hibs.
Score 15-20. He's not Miofsky. He's not an Adam Rooney.
Nah, and he's also not Kevin Nisbet of the year, or Kevin Nisbet pre-Euro 21 at Hibs, where he was good. I was just not that good a player anymore.
It was. I was at the Falkirk game. I was behind. I was in the North Stand with my cousins that game, and at the end of the first half, we pretty much dominated. Aberdeen had barely any chances, and there was a ball sent through, and it landed at Nisbet's feet, and you thought, "Oh my God!" Like he's just going to bury this. It could have went over the stand. It was just absolutely like rocketed, and it looked easier to get. He should have got a shot on target. And you're looking at that, and that kind of just gave an indication of this guy's lost that clinical edge, whatever he had.
I don't know if you remember watching the FC Noah game in the Conference League for Aberdeen recently, back in November, I think it was. The ball came at Nisbet scored in that game. The ball came at the box, and Nisbet looked so nervous and uneasy. He obviously had the freedom of pataudry to go and score a goal in the way he did, because Noah were places defensively. However, yeah, I couldn't believe how he walked. It was bereft of confidence. It was like you were one of Scotland's best strikers, the best part of 5-10 years ago. You were getting shouts for the Scotland squad 5-10 years ago. Now you're going to that, and it was mesmerising. He's an annoying player. He's probably one of these players that you think he's going to be a good signing based on his profile, based on his career in all aspects of that. But at the same time, when you put him on a football park, he probably would have a few performances that frustrate you. And Aberdeen fans are an impatient lot, as you guys well and truly understand. And also, Jimmy, on you go.
I was just going to ask you, Dave, what was interesting, I thought, was when Salim was going. I saw quite a wee bit of criticism online from Don's fans about like Alan Burrows and stuff like that, who's always been a guy that's kind of had like, the model engagement kind of chief exec at Motherwell, had a relatively good start at Aberdeen, well received, whereas I think quite a lot of people, what the accusation I saw is that he was just full of bullshit. Basically, he signed, project players like, Brahim, who's not played a game, and they've spent a lot of money on this transfer model, which they have Majowski as the kind of poster boy of how it works. But they've not really done too many other transfers I can immediately think of that have been successful, and a lot of the recruitment has not been good.
Yeah, Al Burrows is a very frustrating figure from the outside looking at it. I don't know if you've seen it yourself, Andy, but there was an accusation that Al Burrows works from his home in Motherwell.
He lives in Motherwell.
But I know his wife came out last Tuesday and denied that, saying that Alan puts in a lot of work for Aberdeen, sacrifices a lot because of obviously the babies and the young family and various aspects of that. But in terms of Alan Burrows at Aberdeen Football Club, in terms of his current role, he does fail to deceive. He does flatter to deceive, sorry. There's probably various aspects that disappoint you, such as recruitment. For me, Dave Cormack deserves a level of scrutiny, but also if Dave Cormack gets that level of scrutiny, so does Al Burrows, just for the way in which Aberdeen are. Now, a lot of people, this is going to be an unpopular point here, and great timing for this podcast to go out because it's on the back of Lyle Cameron signing for Aberdeen on loan from Rangers. But I'll tell you what, that's probably something that wouldn't happen under Stuart Mill. That's probably something that wouldn't happen under other chairmen. And I think, as far as Aberdeen...
What, you mean loaning a player from Rangers?
Yeah. They feel a bit disjointed with the football club. Like, at the start of Dave Cormack's tenure, there was a amalgamation, and that was a great thing. But it feels like there's that disjointed feeling. You go into a pub on a Saturday night and it has that feel to it. But aye.
But see, going back to that, and Josh raised that in the group chat, it's a good point. I mean, you loan Scales from Celtic, right? I know the idea for some of loaning players from Rangers, given the whole Aberdeen Rangers thing, might not be great, but Cameron was a pretty good player at Dundee. I would have taken him on loan.
I'm all for it. I'm in the for it category. Yeah. But then there will be a division, Andrews, to whether the signing was a good signing or is a good signing for Aberdeen or not because of his allegiances to a club in Glasgow. And it's not.
Well, he's an Arab. Apparently he's a Dundee United fan, but a Dundee United fan that's played for Dundee, Rangers, and Aberdeen. So not the best Arab I've ever come across, anyway.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I can't stand it at all. I mean, I think it's a big part of social media as well. I mean, I'm not old, right? But remember when Andreas Felichka signed for Aberdeen?
Yeah.
And it's like, I wouldn't have remembered, and there wouldn't have been, because of social media and online activity, there wouldn't have been the same animosity and friction that there has been in the last few days with Lyle Cameron.
Was he a loan signing from Rangers, or?
I think he...
Or just ex-Rangers?
I can have a look, but I think he was a loan signing.
Okay.
But yeah, because his journey was a bit... Well, wasn't it? I mean, flying at Hearts
and Rangers, yeah.
Flying at Hearts, poor at Rangers, and went to Aberdeen and quite simply...
No, right enough, yeah, he was on loan at Aberdeen from Rangers, so there you go. I don't remember a huge reaction.
Players from Celtic and Rangers over the years, like...
Yeah.
This is gonna blow a few people's minds here, but like so Jackie McNamara and Velichka and who else would spin to me?
Well, Velichka was a loan. McNamara would have been a permanent signing.
Yeah,
right.
Stephen Hughes as well, and I'm not just meaning about loans as well here, Andrew. I'm meaning permanent deals as well. Okay. Yeah, because we're in the modern way of living and modern way of thinking about football and the modern perception of football. Well, Cameron signs for Aberdeen, and suddenly it's oh, Jesus Christ, what have we done here? And that's where there will be a little bit of aggression of that friction animosity for Al Burrows and Dave Cormack because of the fact they're signing players award from Rangers now. I'm not convinced that Aberdeen will win the Scottish Cup. I'm not trying to sound like negative Norman here. However, if Aberdeen go win the Scottish Cup and Lyle Cameron plays a massive part in it, barring the fact that it's hopefully not Rangers in the final, then if Lyle Cameron scores a winner in the 89th minute, then I'm all for it. Remember the season Ryan Christie signed a loan from Aberdeen from Celtic?
Hey, can he play the final? Is that right? So you're backing him to go back to back, Dave?
Well, my point about Ryan Christie,
Yes.
go on, is Ryan Christie did very, very well at Aberdeen. That felt his journey to go and do well at Celtic afterwards. Now, in terms of Lyle Cameron, if Lyle Cameron goes and scores a goal in the cup final against Celtic, I'm pretty sure it would benefit both Aberdeen and Rangers. And that'll be an unpopular opinion that I've just made there. But at the same time, it wins Aberdeen a second Scottish Cup in the spin. I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, totally. Alan, I don't know about you. I take it you'd have no issue with Falkirk signing anyone, from a particular club, but
no, we would.
It's like Barney Stewart going to Dunfermline.
Or maybe actually Callum Morrison, I guess, might not be welcome back, right?
No, well, that's especially we've got a bit of an interesting relationship with Callum Morrison because obviously he left last season, but the benefit for him playing for Dunfermline is that he had loads of videos of him saying bars. So like we don't feel that bad because like if he scores goals for them, we'll just remind them of those videos.
Exactly.
So, but no, you're right. There was when we sent Barney Stewart on loan to Dunfermline, a lot of us were saying, like I wasn't. I thought it was quite an interesting loan because he's immediately under pressure when he goes there because if he doesn't score or he missed a couple of chances, they'll hit him. So it was a really good sort of loan experience for him under pressure, and he came back. And the best thing about that was they were flying under him with him up front. 8 goals in 12 games. We've just taken away their top scorer, one of their top scorers. So it worked out, but we didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine how that must feel for, but if you're Aberdeen Rangers.
Yeah. Dave, actually, my other question for you I was going to say is that but Mitov was a good signing last year and obviously saved the penalties in the cup final, but there seems to be a lot of Scott Bain aside at Falkirk and I guess Hearts and to a lesser extent Hibs. Charlie likes Salinger. I'm not sure about him, but Mitov seems to be really struggling this season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the calamity of errors, St Mirren, Hibs. What was the other one again? Was it Falk? No, it wasn't the Falkirk.
Well, you've got Jamie v Rangers as well recently, but so do you think the Dons would be in the market for a keeper in the transfer window, or are we not quite at that stage?
When you look at what Aberdeen have got at their disposal, you've got Nick Schumann, who was in the war weeks with Cove Rangers, and I followed a lot of Cove Rangers last season on behalf of the Press and Journal, and Nick Schumann was a very good goalkeeper, was attracting interest from Motherwell in January, but whether he's Aberdeen standard, he's probably similar to Rudy Adams in the sense that he's not been tested, and we don't know. It's a case of you don't know until you throw him in type of scenario. Now, Nick Schumann reportedly had an injury on Sunday, so they had a young goalkeeper called Rodrigo Vitals on the bench on Sunday, who's only about 18, I think. He just came through the youth academy. So Aberdeen probably do need to go in the market for a goalkeeper. But you're probably looking at, it's probably somebody that understands that it's going to be a Dave Richards type of signing. Somebody that understands that they're not going to be in the team straight away, because Mitov ultimately has left a legacy at Aberdeen Football Club because of his save in the final.
I get that, but you can't play him going forward. I mean, and I get that moment will never be taken away, but you kind of got to live in the moment. And if he's chucking goals in every second or third week, surely you got to look for a better keeper.
Oh, 100%. It's like, I'll throw the same complexity here, Andrew, by saying, when you look at Graham Shinnie, he's one of our own.
Yeah.
At the same time, he probably doesn't have the legs or the acceleration or anything along those lines to be Aberdeen probably long term. This might potentially be his last season. But back on the meat of, and he probably does need that competition. He probably does need somebody coming in that has relevant experience that is going to go and push him. I think that was a massive part for him in terms of why he did relatively well at St Johnstone, because I know Dave Richards isn't exactly the best goalkeeper you've seen on the planet, but at the same time, he'll have been good for being at number 2, pushing Mitov and giving him proper competition. Ross Doohan did that last season. Ross Doohan was I'd argue Ross Doohan's performances when he came in for Aberdeen when Mitov was injured last season, that'll have been a big part of him getting Scotland call-ups towards the end of the season.
I see, yeah. I know I mentioned him earlier in the podcast with United, but he must be wondering what he's doing at Celtic. Because as you say, he played for Scotland, in June was it against Liechtenstein? And if he was playing at United, getting a few games at Aberdeen or any club, he would have a chance of going to the World Cup this summer. But as things stand, he can't even get on Celtic's bench, so he won't be in the picture.
So to answer your short sentence here, Andrew, we probably do need another goalkeeper, and it's primarily to to challenge Mitov. It's perhaps to replace him if there's an opportunity to throw him in. I don't know. Well, the Cup's not exactly the greatest game to go and throw a number 2 in. League game, there's a bit of jeopardy and a bit of debate over that. So Mitov probably does need that competition again. I know at St Johnstone, for example, you got off to a strong start at St Johnstone. Was it Craig Levine? I know he was there under Craig Levine, but I don't know if he had another manager before that. But
it'd be Davidson, wouldn't it? It was Davidson.
Carl Davidson.
Or was it McGlynn? Yeah, I'm getting maybe muddled up. Steve McGlynn.
McGlynn, yeah, because it was the start of the season, and then McGlynn went that awful run, remember? But yeah, Mitov started off very, very well. And then a big issue that I know that Craig Levine had was the goalkeeper distribution in terms of kicking out and various aspects of that. And it's been exactly the same Achilles heel at Aberdeen. Had we been having this conversation a month or two ago, Andy, I'd have been saying to you, he's a really good shot stopper. But now, I think everybody's perception has changed on that.
Yeah, you see, it seems like a kind of weak point for Aberdeen. But so where do you think the signings will be in the next 10, 11 days coming in? And with no manager, it's a bit weird, a bit odd signing players. But, this sporting director that, to be honest, I don't have an issue with him sitting on the bench. It's funny how some people seem to have an issue with him sitting on the bench, but apparently it's a done thing in Germany. But presumably Aberdeen will be. They've brought in Cameron, brought anyone else in?
Well, see if Woodspit's final to start off with. When you look at the coaches that Aberdeen have on the bench just now, Andy, you've got Stuart Duff, who's involved in the youth academy, and you've got Paul Coots. Do you remember Paul Coots?
I don't. I remember Duff for bad reasons when he played football for United.
Yeah,
but
Duff played for United, of course, but Paul Coots used to play in the lower leagues of England, like Sheffield United and Bristol Rovers and all that, and he's just moved up. He's still playing football, actually. He's in the higher league with every local just now. But when you've got two inexperienced, I know inexperience can be looked at different ways and shapes here, but when you've got two inexperienced coaches in Stuart Duff and Paul Coots, that probably tells a picture that Leaving probably needs somebody by his side that's going to have a level of experience, a level of know-how. I know it looks bad, I know it looks disjointed from outside looking in, but ultimately when you look at Leaving, Duff and Coots, when you look at that coaching team, I know Leaving's had 2 spells in interim charge and was linked with other jobs, but Duff and Coots haven't had any managerial experience, apart from Duff has obviously led the Aberdeen B team in the KDM Evolution Trophy this season. But yeah, I think for Fitzfanio, I can see why. I can see why he's been on the bench. I think when the new manager comes in, I think he'll be back in the stands, and I think that'll be the hope. But for now, he'll be in the touchline, and I think he needs to do what's right for him, and most importantly, what's right for Aberdeen Football Club. But if you remember, guys, Jimmy Tully made a point about ego after the Falkirk game, which ultimately see him get his jot 24 hours later. And when you look at the performances after T1, I don't think they've exactly been exciting or accelerating or spectacular, because when you look at Sunday against Raith Rovers, got the goal through Jack Bill, but then apart from that, there's nothing really to write home about. There's been a couple of other performances that have been a bit meh as well.
Yeah, I see you've actually brought in Liam Morrison today. The guy who was
Celtic's
kid that went to Bayern. Well, I don't know. I know the name and I know his background, but I've never seen him play.
Yeah, he was at Queen's Park. He's at Queen's Park Rangers in England.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a defensive addition. I think Noster and Jack Bill has been good for Aberdeen, in particular the latter. But I think having another defensive option will be a good thing moving forward. I could see Leighton Clark still leaving in this window. Probably, I can see that being a last-minute shout, depending on what Aberdeen could do in terms of their own recruitment. But I think there will be outgoings, and Lutz Fitzfanio has mentioned that and referenced that. But I think you need to augment that with incomings as well. And what I find really refreshing about Lutz Fitzfanio is the players that I get linked with Aberdeen. They're all players that are within the Scottish game, or indeed within the British game, like Ben Stanley for Partick Thistle's been linked with a move to Aberdeen. And that's in the same market as Dundee, for goodness sake, which I've watched Ben Stanley, he's a really good player. So if Aberdeen are considering that, I think it's refreshing that we're looking at homegrown players for a change.
You sound like we have the Partick Thistle fan that's on here, bigging up Partick Thistle players Stanley. But yeah, I've certainly seen him a little bit, and it's interesting because there's definitely been a move to go foreign from a lot of Scottish Premiership sides. So I guess it would be good to see a pathway.
That was the conversation before. I mean, you look at the stats that have been paraded the last sort of 12, 24 months have been the limited number of minutes given to young Scottish players. Yeah. One of the, I guess this is obviously, there is obviously a strong element of bias, but we've sort of found a core of young, well, reasonably aged Scottish players. I mean, even Barney Stewart and Keelan Adams, who've come in from university football, young guys who qualify for Scotland. And obviously the two goalkeepers, Bain and Hogarth. So it's like the Scottish core players running through the squad. And I think what you can find here is, and you look at the story of Falkirk, you need to scout for the player who'll fit the system. And there's tons of those throughout the leagues. It might require a bit of effort, and it might require a bit of, you bring someone in, you give them a couple of months, and I totally understand. But see, one thing I have found interesting this season from a Falkirk fan's point of view, so many conversations used to be, the Premiership's different level, and you need players that can hit the ground running. And I get that. You do need players who can hit the ground running in a certain respect. However, if you recruit well and you find a target and he fits the system and the type of football you're going to play, let's talk about a goalkeeper. If you want to have a goalkeeper to play like a Bain or like they do at Motherwell, and like a lot of clubs do, playing out for the back, just bring in someone who can pass the ball. If you're looking for someone who's solid and you're happy for them to punt it up and sacrifice a little bit in accuracy, there you go. You've got your criteria. There's a lot of, and that's where the benefits throughout the pyramid are, where managers are given 3 to 5 years. And I get you've got the Toleen, exactly. You had a 5-year plan or whatever it was, and he won the cup, so you can say he did it early and he can leave in a high, almost, even though the football was quite terrible.
One point I'd like to allude to what Andy said as well. Aberdeen were offered Danny Armstrong, or he was recommended Danny Armstrong by the team last year, and Toleen arrogantly said no thanks. And you look at what Danny Armstrong's done for Kilmarnock, and I don't know what his stats and records are.
In Romania now.
I don't know what stats and records are like in Romania, but if you look at what he did for Killie, he was excellent for Killie.
Yeah, he didn't have a great last season, Phil, mind you, right? Did he?
I think there was a lot of transfer talk, to be honest with you. I think it probably went to his head.
Possibly, I don't know. I'm just looking him up and then, but yeah, I mean, Toleen certainly didn't make. I mean, he's obviously legacy Scottish Cup winner, but he didn't make many good signings that I can recall.
Trying to figure all the things he made off the top of my head now and say that was the one. Mitov, of course, prior to recent weeks. Mitov overall, prior to probably end in November to a certain extent, has done relatively well. Noster's been decent.
How much has he spent?
He spent a lot.
A lot of the European money.
Yeah, I mean, in Scottish football terms, outside the Old Firm, there's a possibility Jim Goodwin has spent more money than any manager.
Yeah, no, it's
ever.
Yeah,
I was talking about a wee bit of cash now, but there won't be anyone there that's spent whatever it was.
Somebody will come back to me on this. I reckon T1's best signing was probably Mitov.
Yeah, I mean, and he was a good, and he won you the cup, which is, if United could sign a goalie that wins us a cup and then turns a bit in the next season, I would take that. But yeah, no, it's interesting because he certainly didn't. I thought he might unearth some gems from the Scandinavian market, but that that doesn't, guys like Alison, Jensen and stuff like that. That's definitely not the case. So
yeah, so yeah, that's been the very frustrating thing.
So what are you thinking, Dave? Top six or not? Where we've got.
Yeah, good question. I'm not convinced. I think it depends on who the new manager is, but if you look at right here, right now, Andy, Hibs, I think are probably better in terms
pretty
of
much locked in. We've got enough points on the board for
top
six.
And I think Falkirk probably have just about enough as well. I generally believe it's between Falkirk and Dundee United. I believe they want to go on the run. They want to go on great, but I do think that Falkirk can go and probably achieve something special this year.
But I think looking at the table, and you look at even the result tonight, Livingston are leading St Mirren.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I mean that there alone that separates the group, and you've now got obviously the 5-point gap. But if just say we don't beat Hibs this weekend, you have got a mini middle table of Falkirk, Dundee United, Aberdeen, and a sort of reasonably in all right form Dundee, all competing for that sixth place spot.
Got some Mirren on some run. I know we're doing a middle four just now, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, totally. That makes it interesting at the bottom. But yeah, it is, as you say, it's mini leagues. Alan, is exactly the way to describe it. I would say we've got the top three and probably got fourth and fifth at the moment, although if Falkirk, a good one, could get into it. You've then got the bottom three. Dundee are probably safe but unlikely to challenge top six. And then I think Falkirk United and Aberdeen, there's one spot there.
Yeah, I think definitely Falkirk United and Aberdeen will be a very interesting one, because I think even still, as you say, Aberdeen's recruitment, that's the key thing. United will always, I don't think you will ever play as badly as you did in that 3-0 game.
We were very good that day. I mean, Falkirk played us off the park. We'll have a better goalkeeper next time.
Well, that's it. So it's, I think the games, and given the magnitude of each of these games, they're going to be very interesting coming into the season. And yeah, Dundee though got.
They've been on a great little run, haven't they? Is it 4 in a row? They've won 3 in a row. Well, sorry, they lost to Hearts, of course.
They did.
A great win in the cup, thanks to Dave's, speaking of crap goalkeepers, Kelleroos appearing back at Kilmarnock.
I forgot about
that. And not bothering to shout up at the beach in Aberdeen, Dave. You'll have seen some bad goalkeeping if you ever venture out there. But how the hell they never, honestly, it's that's as bad a goal line as I've seen conceded in terms of it. Just seems the ball's in there for so long. It seems incredible that neither of them have put a shout on it. But
yeah,
anyway.
That's it. Well, Dundee have got Rangers away at the weekend, and then St Mirren and away, and then Motherwell at home. So again,
that's a big win for Livy. I know they've not won a game. So there's still 5 minutes left of the game, but if they can win that, they had that VAR decision against Kilmarnock go against them as well. So I mean they've obviously had the one against at Ibrox, but the one against Kelly would be a real sore one for the Livy fans. Be interested to hear about, because they win tonight. Totally. They've tightened right into within a point of Kelly, and that VAR decision, they would be ahead of Kelly.
Well, that's it. You come within a point, and obviously just with it being a playoff spot, that changes everything, because you look at the quality of the championship.
I agree. The championship sides looks like St Johnstone will get it done, and then Partick are, I think the Scottish Premiership side would fancy their chances.
Totally. So that'll be interesting. I guess St Mirren need recruits in very, very soon, because they're obviously ravaged with injuries, and they're really, as again, if they lose to Livy, that they're really struggling. Livy have recruited quite heavily. Kelly are obviously starting to bring bodies in the door. The biggest thing for Livy now is with them getting a win on the board, that then generates the feeling from a win and then potentially momentum. They've got Aberdeen next, so that's
easy one next.
Easy one next. But we play them, and they're our bogey team, so they could be looking at another.
That's right, because even though you won the league last year, it was what, they get 10 points off or something.
Yeah, and then we opened the opening day this season.
Defeat.
Defeat, and then that was their only win before today, I think.
Yeah, assuming they get this done, and you didn't even beat them at
no, we're up
1-0.
Up 1-0, Brian Graham penalty, then they scored a classic scrappy 88th minute goal or something like that.
They've definitely your bogey team, that's for sure.
Totally. So Livy will pick up more points probably against us this season. So that bottom three is also going to be its own wee mini league.
Yep. Perfect, right. We'll not bore everybody else. We've done plenty of chat tonight. So thank you very much to Andy and Alan. Much appreciated. Thanks very much to Charlie as well. Almost forgot about Mr. Banks there. That's how long ago. It feels like an eternity now. But
you're up at 5 in the morning and Charlie's quit. Oh my, St Mirren have just equalised. All that chat about the Livy comeback and St Mirren have scored a Gojic has scored right there.
We've jinxed this.
I know.
Nothing
there you go,
fills
live
me with more
updates.
pleasure.
At least we've covered it right then. So yeah, that's another sore one for Livy then.
90th minute Gogic equaliser.
Open all mics.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Dave. You were mid wrapping it up, but just we need to throw in that.
That's okay. We'll save the best. We'll save the best storyline to last. So thanks very much to everybody, and see you next week with the bottom 4 teams.